Are you trying to get into tech in 2024 or whenever you're watching this? Are you worried about getting missing the opportunities that in AI, blockchain technology, web applications development, and the rest? Well, you have come to the right place. Today, I want to talk specifically about an area of technology that I really think is catching on fast. I also think that there are some people who want to get into tech, but they're worried that they might not have the skills. They are not willing to invest the time in learning about data structures and algorithms and becoming software engineers to build web applications or mobile applications, or to work in the AI space doing core programming, and they're wondering what other routes are there to enter tech. Well, I have great news for you, and that's the area of DevOps. And so I want to talk specifically about what the tools that you need or the things that you can do to ramp up in the area of DevOps, and why I think you should get into DevOps in this time that we're in. So here we go. So DevOps really works. DevOps specifically is in the area of continuous integration and continuous delivery. Back in the days, decades ago, when I started tech, I remember I used to work in a bank, and all the infrastructure was really like core mainframe servers, which were very expensive, very, very hard to maintain, and they cost a lot in terms of electricity and having to use or set up and configure those data centers on premises. What the term on-prem really means, on premises, which means you have servers in your physical location. And obviously by the time you're watching this, everything is really cloud-based. Now, it's not like those data centers are gone away. Those data centers still exist, but they are managed by companies, big companies like Amazon or like Google with GCP, and Microsoft with their own cloud platforms. They manage these data centers, and they've taken away that complexity or taken up the work of managing those physical locations from us, and they provide those services in the cloud. And so infrastructure as code really talks about how we ramp up our infrastructure. So in the area of DevOps, there are different things that you can learn, or different tools that you can learn to go into the DevOps space. And so really, I'll start by defining really what is infrastructure as code. So the idea really is, if I want to spin up a new environment, I could go to an AWS console and I could click on buttons just to spin up an EC2 instance in a particular data center or availability zone. And then I can do that multiple times over and over again. Now imagine I have a test environment that I've set up, and then I want to do the same or configure the same application or the same environment in probably a different availability zone or for a different application. I'll have to do all that all over again. But infrastructure as code allows us to take our entire infrastructure we've set up, whether it's servers or databases or our network infrastructure, and really define everything in a simple format, whether it's a YAML format or a JSON format. Don't worry about what that means, but basically it's just really like scripting or writing all the details or the commands, or specifically I'll say the details of what it takes to spin up that application or that infrastructure in a simple file. Think of it as a text file, a YAML file in this case, or a JSON file, either way. And so infrastructure as code really means defining all our infrastructure in a text-like file, and being able to deploy that any single time we need to for different multiple environments. And as environments become more complex, it makes more sense to have everything as a text file or a YAML file or a JSON file, so that we can spin up those instances every single time that we need to do that. So DevOps really works around how you deliver your applications, how you develop your infrastructure, how you manage your applications, how you push in new code into your applications. Before, these things were integrated into core software engineering, where the software engineers would develop the applications and they would deploy those applications. But as things became more complex, and as applications became more complex, you have people who worry about writing the code. Then you have DevOps engineers who will take the code and push it into your core application or spin up your new environment. So I just want to talk about, at a high level, the things or the tools that you need to be able to ramp up in the area of DevOps. So the first thing I would say is understanding cloud computing. I've done a video about AWS and how to get into AWS. I'll put a link somewhere below. But whether it's Azure, whether it's GCP, at the time I'm recording this, AWS has the largest market share. So it makes sense to learn about cloud computing, specifically in the area of AWS, or in fact any cloud infrastructure that you decide to pick. You can pick Azure, you can pick GCP, you can pick Alibaba Cloud, and a whole bunch of other clouds. But cloud computing, to understand the basics about cloud computing, would be a great way to start. If you decide to pick AWS, like I said, I'll leave a link below of the video you can watch to ramp up in that area. The second thing around infrastructure as code is understanding the tools that help you to deploy that infrastructure. Now, if you're specifically on AWS, there's something called defining cloud, like I said, about putting all your infrastructure in text files, text-like files. In AWS, there's something called CloudFormation templates. I've done a video about that. I'll put a link below. Or if you're environment agnostic, not worrying about specifically about AWS, whether you want to go into other platforms, there's Terraform. So Terraform really is a tool, really is a technology stack that allows you to deploy your applications and write just simple scripts, simple YAML or JSON commands that allow you to spin up an infrastructure in any cloud environment. So understanding Terraform and CloudFormation templates, I would say Terraform allows you to work on multiple platforms because it's platform agnostic as opposed to CloudFormation templates that are specifically for AWS. So Terraform, the next thing to learn. The third thing I'll talk about is Ansible. Now, Ansible is great. Ansible is a configuration management tool. It's a technology stack that allows you also to do massive deployments across multiple platforms, across multiple instances, just by writing a script or writing a bunch of scripts that you can deploy. Imagine if you want to deploy a Java application or you want to deploy a Java environment across, I don't know, 1,000 applications. Doing that one by one would be very, very difficult. But a tool like Ansible allows you to do that, to manage your Ansible infrastructure, to deploy or do a simple update on the software update or an OS update across multiple thousands of servers. Ansible allows you to do that, even to deploy applications across multiple platforms. All right, next thing I'll talk about is Kubernetes. The way the world is going, Kubernetes is, I mean, there are so many Kubernetes jobs out there. Kubernetes is an orchestration tool. I'll call it a cloud orchestration tool for deploying or for managing applications. So imagine not just any kind of applications, but microservices or containerized applications. So I'll probably do a little video about that, talking about, I can also put some links below, talking about what containers are and how to build out containers. So containerized applications, whether it's on Docker, whether it's on other services that run, or other kinds of container applications that run across what we call the OCI standard, which is the Open Container Initiative. There's Docker-D, there's Docker, and a whole bunch of others that I'll put links or details about. So Kubernetes definitely is great for deploying containerized applications, and understanding Kubernetes at a high level, how Kubernetes works, is also a great way to ramp up in the DevOps space as well. Fifth thing I'll talk about is networking. So networking is something that stumped me for the longest time. I understood software, I understood how to write applications, but I was always lost in conversations that had to do with networking, whether it was understanding how VPCs work, understanding what CIDR blocks are, understanding advanced concepts like route tables and ENIs and NAT gateways and transit gateways. Understanding networking, you don't have to be a networking expert to understand how to deploy a firewall, but really understanding at a high level the basics about networking will also be a good tool to have in your pocket. And lastly, the last thing I'll talk about is really understanding operating systems like Linux, Unix, whether it's Windows or Mac OS, understanding basic commands and basic things that you can do within the Unix or Linux environment. So I know it seems like a lot, but if you just spend an hour a day maybe taking one of these topics, whether it's cloud computing, whether it's just watching a very short video on Terraform to understand it, I learned Ansible in one afternoon. Kubernetes is a little bit more complex, so I think that you'd like to spend a little bit more time understanding basics about networking is great, and learning about Linux and Unix or operating systems is a great way to ramp up. So core software engineering is great if you want to be able to build mobile applications, write web applications, but I also think this area of DevOps is greatly, rapidly ramping up. There are thousands of jobs out there, literally, if you check out LinkedIn or wherever, for roles in that DevOps space. I definitely think it's something worth learning or ramping up this year and the next. So whether it's web applications, whether it's mobile applications, whether it's AI, whether it's blockchain technology, I think it's great to figure out exactly what your interest where your interest lies, and then start to take steps in that direction. There's a lot to learn, and one thing that I've suffered from is what they call the continuous learning syndrome, whereby I'm in this loop of watching tutorial after tutorial. It's great to know your end goal and just understanding at a high level all these little things. And then if you want to go deep into Kubernetes, you can now become a Kubernetes expert, or you want to go deep into maybe Ansible, or you want to go deep into one of these topics, please, you can. But it's always good to start at a high level to see what you like, where all the jobs are, and then you can now decide to ramp up. So that is all I have. And Like I always say, my wish for you is that you learn more about technology, whether it's about blockchain, AI, cloud computing, DevOps, machine learning, data science, data analytics. I strongly believe that people who get involved early in any of these areas will greatly impact the future. And if that is you, then let's go change the world.